Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. It is a very stormy day. There's been some flooding, but we're alright. So there's not too much sun out, so I had to turn on the nice lamp. So it's daytime, but it looks like nighttime. So pardon the lighting. I wanted to talk to you today about how pimps break women in front of other women. And some ladies who've never experienced violence in that way, they think that entering into the sex industry is going to be a walk in the park. And something that you have to realize is the men who purchase women like that, they want to get their rocks off, most evidently, right? And the men who have to manage the minds of the women in order to get them to keep doing that day in and day out and to learn to love it, they know how to get inside a woman's head really well. And if you're a mother or a father, a sister or a brother, and you have a family member who is a bit naive, a bit easy to bully, gullible, these types of women can get lured into selling themselves, and when they witness the raw violence of a pimp, they get kind of shocked. They hold still. They don't really have a survival instinct. They just don't want to be hit. And pimps know to discipline and break a woman in front of another woman, so that the woman who isn't getting hit feels thankful that she's not the one getting it and she wants to be the special girl who doesn't get hurt. I think one of the most interesting examples I've ever seen of this, produced in Hellhole Hollywood, is the character Theon Greyjoy in Game of Thrones. When he becomes Reek, and how Ramsay Bolton tortures him and flays him and breaks his mind, right? Now, torture has been something that's used all over the world for thousands of years. And today, a lot of those secrets are passed down in the human trafficking realm, but they are done in a more psychological way, but also a physical way. And so, when strong women who are very perceptive can see what's happening to more naive girls who are a bit more religious, and they're getting impressed with showboaty men, flashy men of all styles and all backgrounds, who might have their fingers dipped into the pimp game or the sex industry and whatnot, we have to make sure that we guide those girls to better men. And this is why women have to make sure that they are teaching their daughters to go after men who have good character and conduct, and not to just go after men who seem to have money. Because sometimes you have to examine, how did the men get that money? And a devil can wear a suit. Plenty of Italian mobsters would wear suits, have tons of gumas, aka side chicks, and purchase expensive escorts while their wife is at home. And then they would go to Catholic Mass and baptisms and whatnot, or christenings, whatever they call it. And this, to me, just goes to show how money can really hide so much. And when it comes to human trafficking, when it comes to women in the sex industry, the power that glitz and glamour has to allure women is mind-blowing. That's why I think it's really interesting how in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lets us know that the glitz and glamour of this world is basically an illusion. There's plenty of ayats in the Quran that talk and hint about that, you know, being poor isn't necessarily a punishment that makes God hate you. And being rich is still a test. And you'll be judged for how you conducted yourself, for how you used that money and gained that money. And so this whole get rich or die trying, and a pimp offering a poor girl a way out through illicit means, causes so much damage for those who fall for it. And so I hope today to just remind some women and young men, be careful who you hang out with, who you associate with, who you idolize, and who you defend, and who you become. Because some people can lure you with glitz and glamour and make you go into a trap. And a lot of women, they will go into a house where a lot of girls are kept, right? They go in, there's a nice leather couch, huge flat screen TV, maybe a jacuzzi in the back, pool table, and they're very impressed with the surroundings, and it looks comfortable, right? Because pimps know to make a home comfortable for their stable stock, we'll call it that. And for girls who come from rough neighborhoods, when they come into this comfort, they're very impressed and overwhelmed. They're still a little bit shy and insecure. So the pimp knows to make the woman comfortable, get her around hypersexual women, and give her drugs and alcohol and things like that. And then one of the strategies the pimps will do is they will buy things for the girl, food, clothes, spoil her, get her to trust him, right? And then he'll leverage that against her later on by demanding he has a right to have sex with her because he got her these things, and she has two options: to go ahead and let him do it, or to say no and get disciplined. And the pimp knows when to press her for sex. And after he beats her or chokes her or drags her by the hair or rips off her shirt or throws a drink in her face, you name it, he has a lot of ways to humiliate her in front of the other girls, so she feels totally embarrassed. He knows when to pull that trigger, and when he does, this will make many more of the girls bonded to the pimp, and it will make that girl get so afraid. Oh, Allah protect us. It'll make so many girls afraid to the point where they become crippled and don't help the girl. Rather, they will go to the girl and tell her, you should just listen. You should just join us. Oh, he's not always like that. It'll get better. He's just having a bad day. The girls will manipulate this new girl into doing things, and the pimp knows how to manage his herd. He knows how to direct his flock. He's an expert at getting inside the brain and breaking a woman without leaving a bruise. And to prove someone has been psychologically broken is very hard to do in court, right? Because some victims, they will hate themselves. And the pimp doesn't want to break her so much to where she starts cutting herself or hurting herself. So he knows to what degree to break her so that he doesn't actually break his product. And she is a product to him. And if she doesn't put out for the pimp when he demands it, he'll take what is his and what he thinks is his right. And at that time, she'll be very embarrassed, especially if he does it in front of the other girls, which a lot of them do. And each time he breaks the girl by humiliating her and using force, she will defend herself less and less, and then in order to cope, she'll turn to drugs. And if she turns to drugs, she will have her consciousness changed, and then she's even more easy to manipulate, because when you see she's high and she's drunk, she's got a little buzz going on to where she'll still have a little bit of her memory intact. They'll push a present on her, they'll compliment her, tell her she's special, say she's working so hard. He will use all sorts of manipulation tactics to make her feel like she's in a family so that he can get her even more bonded to him in this really satanic, demonic methodology. And so when a pimp breaks a woman in front of other women, when that lady finally escapes or leaves that relationship, she has a mark on her for the years to come, and will struggle deeply when it comes to therapy, when it comes to healing from that. And when she gets into a relationship, if her man doesn't know what happened to her, it's going to be very difficult. She's going to struggle with trust issues, body issues, and addiction. And so these pimps take people's daughters and totally rack and warp their mind and lure them and snatch them away from the straight path that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set for them. And so as Muslim parents, we have to always be on guard for those who dangle such glitz and glamour in front of the youth, because materialism is a powerful thing. So many suffer in poverty that their deep desire to have wealth, status, and fame will override their ethics, and they'll do anything to get rich. And truly, we have to remind them constantly that the harder route is the better route, and that materialism at the expense of your bodily honor isn't worth it, and that a pimp can never, ever be trusted, and that if you know someone who is a pimp or a pimptress, you have to treat that as you would a cobra, right? You need to be mindful of how close you get to that flame and how far you're willing to go in even getting anything of a conversation started with them. And these pimps come in all styles. There's lower class ones and higher class ones. And each one has so many tools in their tool belt that it would shock parents, right? Today, when we see the secular liberal atheists who serve the occultic agenda, when we see them glorifying sex culture, this benefits the pimps and pimptresses because they're the ones who already have the facilities set up for those women. And a lot of women will start out doing legitimate porn, and then, like flies to poop, that nasty pimp comes in and will say, hey, I got a job for you. You just gotta go on this yacht with these guys, give them a couple cocktails, and then look nice in this dress, and you're gonna make $5,000. The girl's stupid. She says, okay. She goes there. Drinks are passed around. She doesn't stay sober due to peer pressure, right? The customers and the pimp know they gotta get them a little loose. Easier to put pressure on them. And then she gets a train ran on her. She feels weird. They give her the Plan B pill after. They toss it at her feet. Here, take this. And then she goes in the bathroom, cleans herself up, and then feels violated inside to a different level. But she's been placated with material items and alcohol to where she doesn't feel like she should advocate for herself. And then she gets into this mode of self-hatred and isn't really able to verbalize it as well. And then when they dock the yacht in the harbor, she gets out. They give her, a little talk, like, oh, it was great work you did. You're so special. You did a wonderful job. She gets like, okay, maybe I'm just the weird one. They make her have self-doubt. And when she has self-doubt, she doesn't want to have this sort of, oh, I did something bad, right? Oh, it's just me who feels weird. They say I did something good. I'm a good girl. I get approval. It may sound weird to say that, but a lot of women do feel that way. And then the brainwashing takes hold even more. That's why it's very difficult to rescue some of these girls who have been trafficked and have been lured into selling themselves, is because they've had layer upon layer upon layer of grooming, of brainwashing, of soul pollution upon them, to where they almost forget what they like, who they used to be. They're a new person now, and you trying to dig into their soul to remind them that what they're doing is terrible proves to be quite difficult. And when you see how these pimps, even ugly ones, are able to harm women's minds to the point where they invert it, distort it, and fracture it, you begin to see how terrifying it is that they have this skill. And it's very important to prevent the pimp from even getting the opportunity to be around your daughter or around your son, because pimps do also groom boys as well. With boys, they sodomize the boys though, or they get them really high and then force them to do oral upon them. It's a very dark thing when a pimp breaks boys. It's dark with women, but for young men, I mean, the humiliation that comes afterwards, and it's really dark. And there are pimps who know how to break a boy and a girl, and those kinds are even more lethal, because if a boy is insecure about his manhood and another man who he looked up to is the same one who violated him, it is the most sick, twisted relationship you can imagine. And stories of these boys being passed around older men, older pimps, and then raising them kind of like after a year, and then they give them money and clothes and take them on a nice ride in their car. The boys change, and then they too become a different person. So when it comes to people being trafficked, boys can be just as susceptible. And you must be very careful with who you let around your sons, because some men are just real experts at that. They know how to make your son lower his guard. And so breaking a boy is done more privately, and breaking a woman is done more publicly. And you have to be aware of this as a parent and be mindful of who your kid hangs out with. You need to talk to them about these deep, serious issues, and it may seem scary to do so, but have them listen to survivors. Have them understand criminal statistics. Go past a prison and have a deep conversation outside and say, look at those monsters in that building. You can do all kinds of stuff to have a serious conversation concerning pimp culture, from the female groomer perspective and from the male groomer perspective. And so, if you know anyone who has had their mind busted in, help them to get out of it. And Islam can help women to feel strong again. It can help them because it gives them back their strength through prayer, through fasting, and through study, and directing their energy towards reformation, which will then strengthen them, God willing, and put them on the right path, and occupy themselves with prayer, praying on time, and through getting around sisters who are modest and decent. They were surrounded by hedonistic demons. Now they're going to be around pious sisters, hopefully, inshallah, and men who lower their gaze instead of are pushing these women to be gazed at. The energy shift is very important in trying to heal these young men and women who have been trafficked. There's been young men who are forced to sleep with really old and just ugly women. Ugh, just really traumatizing things that people don't think of. they don't really think about. So it's important to strategize on how you can prevent your children from being lured, how you can help report people who do that activity, and how you can save women who don't really know how to advocate for themselves, and to have patience for when they go back to their abuser, and how you can still try to help them and slowly try to rescue them and help them to recognize that the way in which they are living is spiritually sick and not going to last very long, because a lot of those girls who end up getting trafficked, once their mind is just too broken, too addicted to drugs, they'll get dumped on the side of the road. They'll get pushed off the yacht in the middle of the ocean. Those girls don't have a very pretty ending because they know too much information and they can put a lot of people in some problems. So the best way to get rid of them is to get rid of a witness. And a lot of those girls don't make it out. A lot of them turn to so many drugs that even when they tell their stories, no one believes them because they're so coked out of their mind. So protect your children, love your children, sacrifice time to be with your children, and make dua for those who are going unnoticed in the world. Make dua. Help them through your prayers, through your eyes, being watchful of your community, and through voicing yourself often. It's a very deep topic, but it is worth discussing. I hope you have a great day, and stay dry if it's raining where you are.